You're listening to the Tumbling Saber Podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com, on iTunes, Facebook, and Twitter, and take your first step into a larger world. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 67 of the Tumbling Saber Podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm Corey.
And I'm James.
Welcome back everyone. It's good to be with you on this, for us it's a Sunday night. I don't know what it is for you, but we hope you're doing well. And we're still all buzzing here over what we saw last night on Twin Suns, and we're definitely going to break that down later on in the episode. But before we get there, we've got a bunch of things to talk about. Excited to do that. So, hey, first, let's catch up with the guys. So, what's new and exciting in your world, James?
New and exciting for me. My 3-year-old tomorrow son had his birthday party today, so I still have the song of screaming kids ringing in my ears.
I feel your pain.
'Tis the sound of angels.
It's just those angels are being slowly murdered.
That's Hell's soundtrack.
Hell's
I'm
bells.
kidding. I kid.
No, it was fun, but you do get my sense of humor, because as much fun as it is, it's also quite trying and loud.
Yeah, it gets loud, and there's nothing you can do. It's like being in quicksand. The more you struggle, the lower you sink. It's not worth it.
Yeah, but
Sometimes it makes you wonder though. Like I took my kid out for his birthday last week, and we took some other kid with us, and my God, I was like, this kid was just so unruly. Like I couldn't believe it.
It's not nice to talk about your nephew that way.
No, he's cool. we got.
He definitely has his moments.
Oh, they all do, Kyle. They all do. My 2-year-old is a complete bizarro sibling to his sister. We had the first kid, and we were like, "Oh, kids are so nice and good and kind and fun. Let's have another one."
Oops.
Karma. We're good.
Yeah, you get in those moments, you have to just sort of let it wash over you, and just keep your eye on the clock and just wait for the clock to run out. That's it. That's all you can do.
It was fun. And just before we move on to Corey, I saw Doctor Strange on the plane coming back from my trip to Naboo, and very cool looking movie. I don't know if you guys saw it. Very cool looking, but overall, I thought the acting was only so-so.
Man, it's been 20 years since I've seen Doctor Strangelove, and yeah, from what I remember, I can't really disagree, you know?
Are you saying Doctor?
Yeah.
I think you said Doctor Strange.
I did say Doctor Strange.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Well, it's been 20 years since I said. Well, now people know. It's been about 20 years since I saw Doctor Strangelove, and yeah, Peter Sellers was a little over the top in a good way, I suppose. And yeah, well, Doctor Strange, so, huh?
So.
I haven't seen it. It looked cool. Had a
It's cool. It's like
feel.
It is very Inception-esque at points, and it's very visually cool. I bet you Scooby and Shaggy would like to watch it in the back of the van. But,
Eating sandwiches or Scooby snacks?
Eating Scooby snacks. But yeah, the acting was a little over the top for me. And I usually like him, Cumberbun.
Yeah, you always have to be, for me anyway, I'm always a little bit leery of watching, or what my opinions are when watching a movie on like a little 6x4 screen.
Very true. Especially that kind of movie.
It's a fair
point.
Anyway, Corey, what is up with you?
Not too much. It was, the weekend just flew by. I had quite a few things to do, so yeah, it's Sunday now, but I did manage to get out there and purchase some more toys to the ever-growing collection. I had to restrain myself at one point, like God, I just
Well,
have to-
restrain yourself now. We'll save that for later.
All right, you got it.
We got a bunch of stuff. We may even save it for Sith Disturbers. Who knows? Sometimes if we plan things around here. Other than that, everything good?
Yeah, so far so good.
How many beers are you in?
I'm actually like a quarter of the way through my first one.
Slowing down.
Get on
Yeah,
it.
It's late. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm never gonna get to sleep.
Well, if we don't start talking about Star Wars, you're not going to get to sleep. So maybe we should do that.
Let's do it.
So first thing, just to kick things off nice and easy here, life-size AT-ATs under construction at Star Wars Land. Making Star Wars had a little report on that. So when you click on over, there's not much to see, although they had a little video there, which I guess gives you an idea maybe of what's coming down the line. But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think the coolest vehicle to see in full scale would be in person at Star Wars Land? Corey, I'll ask you first.
Let's go Death Star. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
Well, if anybody has the money to do that, it's Disney. They're they're crushing. I don't know if you guys saw the reports about how much money Beauty and the Beast made this weekend.
All of it. They made all the money.
They made all the money. Disney is making all the money. They made Beauty and the Beast open to 170 million.
Get out of town.
Really?
Yeah.
Get
Holy
out of
smokes.
town.
170
It's-
million.
What?
That's a new record for a March opening. Probably, I don't know
Wow.
what second place was, but that's
Second
That's a
place was
crusher.
also Beauty and the Beast, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah,
that was
just-
my favorite growing up. That one and Lion King, but specifically that one was my favorite animated one. So believe it or not, it's high on my list. So those $170 million include none of mine, and I'll be going to see it too. So this thing will have some legs.
Oh, this is going to make a lot of money. A lot of money. So anyway, yeah. So if anybody's going to build a full size Death Star, it's definitely Disney because, like you said, James, they've made all the money. The envy of every movie studio on the planet, maybe even in the galaxy. So Corey, do you want to revise that answer, or are you sticking with Death Star?
No, it's kind of silly, but imagine a 3-night stay on the Death Star. But I don't know, something maybe like an Ewok village would kind of be cool, but there's a lot of liability issues there again. I gotta see the Falcon, like in and out on every nook and cranny, and I think that's already in the works, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I think there were rumors of that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were planning on building a full size Falcon, which it seems like a natural fit. Everybody would like to see that.
Yeah, Cantina as well. We said that as well. It seems like these are all low hanging fruit, but those are the ones I really want to go to.
Well, and we did call it. We can rewind to that episode and look it up. But I remember saying specifically, like, they'll make a full size AT-AT. That's probably one of the things, AT-AT. That's probably one of the things they'll do because that's one of the things everybody wants to see.
I mean, that is kind of
that's
the
what they'll
thing,
do.
right?
Yeah.
James, do you have any? Would you want anything else built at full size?
Well, look, a Star Destroyer at full size. Maybe they make it like a building, one of their movie theaters or something. But
Well, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Except I thought, why not build like the biggest blimp and shape it like a Star Destroyer?
that'd be amazing.
And just have it hovering over Disneyland or Star Wars Land. How cool would that be? Almost very Jeddah-like.
Well, actually, you could have it do football games and stuff too.
Yeah. Well,
No,
yeah,
but-
I suppose. Yeah, I don't think you build a blimp and just have it parked in one spot forever. Yeah, you fly it around and have it do advertising all over, whether it's Florida or Southern California.
It doesn't matter. You don't need a blimp to say anything when it's shaped like a Star Destroyer. It's just the best ad ever.
Now, full scale might be a bit of a challenge. These things were like 1.5, 2 kilometers long. So let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit. But there's probably some room there for some real serious ambition. You could probably build one.
Yeah, you build
Jeez,
the
I don't
mall.
know.
Build the mall. The mall is the Star Destroyer. The kilometer-long mall.
A ground-based thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I would just love to see a Star Destroyer at full size.
Yeah, buildings would be the way to go if you were doing it a full size, and it would have to be like shops and maybe the parking garage, like 2-story, 3-story parking garage or something.
Yeah. So anyway, what about the listeners? What would you guys like to see? And barring the stuff that we know is already coming down the pipe, let us know. We would definitely like to hear what you've got to say. Moving on to Rogue One stuff. The marketing campaign is heating up since we're like 2 weeks out from the home video release, and I'm stoked to watch Rogue One again. For seems like it's been forever since I've watched it, but
With your buddies,
yeah,
with the tape running.
that would be cool. Yeah, we're definitely going to try and do our breakdown, aren't we?
Tape running? How old am I?
Yeah,
I just dated all of us.
I've already advised my colleague that I won't be in that afternoon.
Well, what day is that? So I can advise my colleagues.
It's Tuesday, April 4th, I believe. You know what, James? I haven't advised my colleagues that I won't be in that afternoon either. We're in a little bit of hell right now at work, so I'm kind of taking it day by day here.
Puss.
Fair enough.
All right, but anyway, the marketing campaign is heating up, so we're getting interviews from Gareth Edwards and Gary Whitta all over the place. These guys are coming out with stories, some interesting, some not. I threw a bunch of links your guys' way this weekend to just pour over and see if anything jumps out at you. So, James, I'll punt it over to you first. Did anything at all jump out at you, or is it just sort of generic stuff that you don't care to really discuss?
Something definitely jumped out at me. It was in Article 1 and then sort of repeated, link 1 you sent me and repeated in a couple others. But the fact that the Vader scene that I didn't necessarily love, that I said, I think my words were, I thought it made him actually look weak, where it was supposed to make him look strong. In the original sort of story, he was supposed to take out the heroes. Boom, take down everyone in one shot. And I think that would have been way cooler to see. And so I'm disappointed that they changed that.
Yeah, well, again, one of the things that Gareth Edwards went on and on about is how the third act of the movie was just too long. The whole beach battle, the whole gathering the Death Star plans was just taking too long, so they had to reshoot, rewrite the whole damn thing. And yeah, originally Vader was potentially going to be on that beach when everybody got together. We see them running on the beach, and Jyn is holding the Death Star plans in her hand, and the ACTs are there, stalking them. Vader could have potentially been on the beach and could have wiped them all out, but they decided this is just too long, so they combined the transmission tower and the archives building into one, which I guess is one way to do it, and we get what we finally got. But yeah, that jumped out at me too. The Vader's massacre was basically a last-minute addition just 4 months before the film's release.
And it felt like it to me.
I don't have any feelings on that. But it's a good... I mean, it struck me as odd that it was the film editor that had to blurt it out to Kathleen Kennedy just in a moment of impulse. Seizing the moment.
It makes sense in the sense they were like, well, now we've lost our... we had this climactic way to use Vader in this badass way to set him up for A New Hope. And now, since we moved the tower, it doesn't make sense for him to take out the heroes in this way. So how can we just use him in a really killer scene at the end? Like, I get where it sort of came from, but I just like the original idea. I think I like it more, quite a bit more.
It would have been very Vader down from the comic book series to see Vader in a ground battle against actual rebel heroes.
Heroes instead of peons, yeah.
And it would have made their deaths way more striking instead of just generic explosions and getting shot up.
They got torn down by Vader. Like, that's the way you got to go down when you're a hero.
Any thoughts, Corey?
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the one that stood out to me the most as well. I couldn't believe it either. I was like, what? Like, they had 4 months. Like, that's tight editing wise, like writing wise, everything, shooting, editing, building the set. Like, they had to shake their ass, I'm pretty sure, to get that done. And just cool that Kathleen Kennedy was on board. Disney gave him the green light. And I'm all for it. Like, we didn't need that extra scene in the original cut anyhow. And if it was running too long, you got to trust them. And to me, it's still one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So, like, I went with it.
Well, you have no choice. You have to go with it.
Well, I could still say I didn't like it and whatnot, but
I
I
suppose.
thought it worked.
What I mean, I guess this is by no means an exhaustive making of Rogue One, but it almost sounds like they were at the point where they were going to let it go, let the whole Vader thing go. We would get the scene of him in his bacta tank in his castle, but that was going to be it. He wasn't going to be in the final battle at all because, well, we've scrapped this ending. We've had him. We've had a ship come out of hyperspace. He's trashed what's left of the Rebel fleet. They disabled Radis's starship. And that's it. Vader's not gonna do any more. It seemed like they were ready to make that compromise, and so I'm glad the editor decided to speak up and change the course of the movie.
Yeah, I think in the article it even said that Gareth Edwards kind of just like, oh, let's just sweep it under the rug, and the editor was like, he kind of just blurted it out one day, and she was like, wow, Kathleen Kennedy was like, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, all's well that ends well, I suppose, but geez, you'd really think the director would have been the guy to say, this is what we need to do. But I read a saying once about editors, and it's probably written by an editor, and I'm going to butcher it, but the general sense of it was an editor is a person who takes all this random stuff generated by the director, shapes it into something coherent and good, for which the director takes credit. And it's kind of true, you know? They get 4 hours of footage, and they have to, of course, the directors usually, I would imagine, they're with them, cutting the film together. But it's true. The editor shapes the movie from a whole bunch of stuff, and the director runs away with all the credit.
Yeah, it's weird. Even the writers don't get so much props as the director, you know? That is kind of odd.
Yeah, a director is kind of like a coach in sports. They get all the credit and get all the blame if it stinks, right?
True.
Other than that, a couple other things that I found interesting. There's really no plans for us to be shown deleted scenes or alternate endings. So, Corey, are you okay with that? Do you need to see these things, or are those glimpses from the trailers that were ultimately cut good enough for you?
They could throw us a bone. I mean, I don't see any harm in it. I'd like
They're
to
saving
see
it.
Yeah, they're probably saving it for something else, which again is kind of lame, but it is what it is. I wouldn't mind seeing it. It doesn't break my heart that we don't get it, but the same right, like, why not? Like, give us a break.
Well,
come on.
I had this sense, again, by no means exhaustive or definitive, but I had the sense that they were saying that the scenes we decided what to keep and what to delete so early on that there is no deleted scene to show you. It's an unfinished, and in some cases, completely useless piece of footage that if I showed it to you, you'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, it's possible. Like the opening crawl as well, supposedly it's possibly out there somewhere, but
yeah, there's confusion around that. In reading a bunch of the articles, somebody I think it was Gareth Edwards at South by Southwest in his keynote had said that Gary Whitta did an opening crawl in the first draft of the movie, and so of course people went to Gary Whitta and asked him about that, and to which he said, "Whoa! There was never an opening crawl attached to a draft of the movie. When he first started writing in the early days of writing down, I guess, his concept of the movie, he wrote himself a crawl, I guess, to situate himself. But it never appeared in an official draft of the movie. So somewhere in a random Word document, I suppose, is a crawl for Rogue One. But again, the crawl thing to me is useless. What use is a crawl when the movie starts 15 years before the main action? So anyway, we wait now another 2 agonizing weeks until Rogue One drops on DVD. Can't wait for that. And seriously, guys, I'm really excited to do our walkthrough. Although it's gonna be really torturous to have to, the first time I get to watch this movie, instead of having the volume jacked, the volume will be off. That's going to be painful.
It'll be fun regardless. I hope people actually listen to it, because I think you guys did it last time for The Force Awakens, and I can't remember. I think I did stick through to the end on that with you guys, which,
Really?
yeah.
Well, gee, thanks.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no
Thanks for your
problem.
patronage.
Hey,
We should
I
get
was a fan.
listeners' input before though. Like, what do they want to hear us talk about while we watch the movie? Like, are there takes or scenes or angles that like? This is the part where the sort of the best part of the show is where we get to ask people what they want to hear.
Very true. Moving right along, blazing through the news, what little there is. The future of Star Wars apparently will not rely on legacy characters, promises Rogue One screenwriter Gary Whitta. So, James, is that an irksome statement or more of a water is wet statement? Moving ahead in Star Wars without leaning on the Lukes, the Vaders, the Hans, etc.
I guess in the one sense it has to happen, but it gets my spidey senses tingling about the whole Last Jedi thing when they start saying stuff like, and we don't need any of the old characters either. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm beating a dead horse on this, but I really hope that they keep Jedi as an active ingredient in Star Wars movies. It's sort of important for me.
Yeah, definitely. Jedi are almost the critical element of a Star Wars movie, I would say. I don't know if you'll find many people to disagree with that.
I could see the Jedi evolving, just keeping the name Jedi, somewhat being the same kind of, believing in the same kind of principles, but who knows? Like, I think they can evolve.
No, but what I mean is, what I'm getting at is
Keeping that
fine. Keep
the
it's
Force.
the Jedi. Fine, whether they're the same or different, whatever. That's besides the point. But an entirely new group of Jedi that don't feature Yoda or don't feature, insert familiar name here. Just an entirely new group of characters.
No, I get the question, or I get what we're talking about for sure. But I'm on the same page as James. Like, of course, like you said, Kyle, water is wet. They are gonna eventually have to gonna grow away from this kind of thing, but they're not doing it anytime soon either. I mean, we're waiting for Han Solo. We got episode 8 and 9 around the corner. Then after that, we got the 2020 film. We don't know what it's going to be, but it's most likely going to touch on someone. Rumors have it as Boba Fett. I'm hoping for Obi-Wan, along with most of fandom, I believe. These are all old characters, and yeah, from there on out, it'll probably be Rey, Finn, and Poe, like leading a new generation. Like Luke's story, Leia's story, unfortunately, they have to come to an end sooner rather than later, and the story's going to move forward. So,
yeah. Fans say big and bold things. Like, they say they want new characters, they want different style, they want, they just want new and different. But when they get new and different, i.e. the prequels, they go crazy. Or you get an instance like we had last week, with last week's episode of Rebels was called what, Corey? Double Agent Droid.
Yeah.
Where you had, it was, keeping in mind, it was a 22-minute self-contained episode that really had no impact on anything at all. But man, oh man, did people get their knickers in a twist over AP5 and that little, which I thought was hysterical, musical bit while he floats away into the void. That really got a lot of people angry.
That's funny, like, I'm on Twitter all the time. I don't know. I follow quite a few people, and I didn't hear any negative complaints. Most people that I associate with loved it. Like, I don't know.
Most of the complaining I saw was on Facebook.
Really, eh?
Yeah. So, I just find it funny because fans say they want new and different and fresh stuff, but they get it and then they complain.
Well, you had just mentioned the prequels, Kyle. In regards to that, like, look what Rogue One did. It's new and different, although it's touching upon like familiar territory. It's filming in a different way. It took the story or what Star Wars is in a different direction, kind of, but it still remained true to what Star Wars is.
Well, yeah, that's like 1 foot through the different door. It's it's rooted in original material. It had ties to characters that we know, even if it's just tenuous links. Vader's only in a couple scenes. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, just a couple scenes. Lots of familiar faces from Gold Leader and Red Leader. Leia was there. Tarkin was there.
No, so we're very comfortable with that.
Well, exactly. So even though we got fed a full cast of new heroes that we'd never seen, I can't give them full marks for doing something new and different.
No, it's the
It
first
was
one.
still, yeah, it's still rooted in familiarity.
They're weaning us off it, but eventually it's gonna have to happen, especially if they travel back in time.
Yeah, well, that's my question. So, James, when do we get a movie or a TV show, or is that where they start? Maybe do they start somewhere else first? A media that branches away from the legacy characters. Do they have to build these bridges slowly, or do they just dive in and dive into another part of the galaxy with all new characters?
Well, I think Rebels sort of proves they can create new characters that people get really invested in.
Are you reading my
Like-
notes here? You're killing my notepad here. I said, didn't Rebels kind of do this?
Yeah, well, we
So
do
good
have access
call.
to the same online notes, but I can't see your notepad from here. But yeah, no, like Rebels sort of introduced new characters, and Ezra's and Kanan are pretty beloved, as well as actually the whole crew. Look Chop Rule's Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they still, but again,
it
like
doesn't
like
take
Rogue
long.
One, they still have that security blanket of familiar territory, though, right?
Yeah, like Yoda and like recently Obi-Wan,
Like the general era. Like the
Maul.
point stands. Like I think it's a valid point, James. We got fed a brand new 5-6 person cast, and a fresh cast of bad guys, and that seems to have gone over pretty well. But when do they do the full step of these are all new characters in a different place, potentially in a different time, and very little stuff will be recognizable by name? That's what I'm wondering when we get.
Episode 1 of the
Yes.
next saga.
That's it. I was just gonna say to that Kyle's point last episode. Just taking it all back after linking the end of this saga. Let it be if it ends at 9 or 12, whatever it is. Possibly okay. We'll say maybe it is Rey, like Kyle had said. But even if it's not Rey, somehow linking the end of this saga to the beginning of it all, like the Jedi year 1. You know?
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility, and that is the full step. Different time, different place, new characters. But yet, if my theory ever panned out and it was a reincarnation of Rey, and we get Daisy Ridley at the beginning of time, well, I guess you have to wait and see what else they do. But that's I guess a different. They've loopholed it, Corey.
Yeah.
It's new but different. The same but
loopholed it.
different.
That's what I want to see, honestly. Now, like now, I'm hooked on that. Like Knights of the Old Republic is up there too, but yeah, I want Jedi Year 1 starring Daisy Ridley.
You think if they flash back like that, do you think Sharut's ancestor could be like one of the original, whatever, guards of or friends or associates, and then so he can play his own ancestor too?
That'd be cool.
It wouldn't shock me. Like they would still, the temptation to make those linkages would be too great, and they would be all over the place. So I wonder if the Dr. Aphra comic book, which is a spin-off that takes a new character and puts her in a fresh-ish setting, I wonder if that's another kind of beta test to see how far they can push the concept of largely unknown characters and throw that at fandom and say, here's a standalone character in her own situation without having to lean on Han Solo or Darth Vader or Yoda as the person that we're all waiting to see. Interesting times ahead, I think.
Yeah, I definitely hope we get a live action television series. Like Aphra, I could see that would be a perfect Netflix show,
I think it would
I don't
be.
know. TV.
It depends what TV.
I'm so
like we're
leery.
talking about like home box office, Netflix, They do
Yeah,
good jobs.
I don't
on
want to. I don't
stuff.
want to see I don't want to see a live action ABC thing.
Yeah,
But that's
me
who would
neither.
do it.
Don't want network TV. I would want it to. I want it to be, like you said, a Netflix, an HBO thing.
Like I'm
That-
picturing
that's the only way
Lois
to
and
go.
Clark: The Adventures of Superman. Like that. I'm picturing that, but for Star Wars, and I'm just like, oh no. Even though I think I said secretly on the show that was a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't want to see Star Wars with that quality and that,
No, the
budget
scope
and
is too
sets
small.
and-
It's cheesy.
yeah.
Yeah, no. Even though we'd all sit down and watch it, it would almost feel maybe out of necessity. Here we are
No, that's
trashing a show that's not even, perhaps not even a concept yet.
Well, in a way, it's already in existence. Like, leave that kind of mainstream stuff that's going to be on the public network stuff, like the easily accessible cable channels, on like an animation series. And if you want to move on with live action stuff, let's take it up a notch here. You know?
Well, Disney's got to be tempted on some level to put some kind of live action thing together and put it on ABC. I mean, that's a ratings bonanza. They
True,
own
but,
ABC, right? Like they're
they're
just
also
probably
so
just dying for
limited.
that.
They're so limited by that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, keep ABC, and Rebels should be on ABC, to be honest. Like, I don't know.
Should it?
Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, it makes more money for them being on XD, because then you have to order the channel, right? So
I am not smart enough to understand who gets the money.
it's all a way of making money. It's obviously more profitable for them to have it on XD than it is on ABC. It'd be more accessible on ABC. Regardless, like those kind of public, like friendly viewing channels, as opposed to like home box office or Netflix, where you're paying for something and the quality of it, and you can just kind of get it to like a movie quality level almost.
Yeah, and I mean nobody would question how amazing the production value is on HBO or Netflix shows now. It is rivaling the best of what cinema has to offer, and in many cases surpassing it.
Yeah, the home box office, man.
All right, well, I mean, I don't know when we're going to get this. I imagine it's inevitable. We're going to get every permutation of Star Wars content over the years, so it's inevitable that we're going to have, I think, a Star Wars series featuring completely new characters that we don't know in a time that we're not that familiar with. Please don't let it be the Rebellion era. I will lose my mind. But yeah, that's got to be coming.
Yo, on a quick side note, just that you kind of just sparked it there, Kyle. Just want to ask you guys: are you guys excited for the new Star Trek series?
The what?
The new Star Trek series?
The what?
Jesus, I saw that coming.
I think he's talking about Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're talking. I am definitely stoked for that. But James,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not that
know if
into
it's
the
on
Star
TV in
Wars- Star
Canada
Trek.
yet. I'm not sure that's on TV in Canada yet, James.
I haven't looked. Like I said, the premiere was last weekend.
On Cartoon Network, which is that I'm not even sure that's available in Canada.
Don't know. I'm sure we could find it online if we wanted to, but I haven't looked yet. But I am looking forward to that because I did really enjoy the originals.
Yeah, it's there's nothing to not like about Samurai Jack. If you don't like Samurai Jack, log off the internet, go home. That's it. There's something wrong with you. Rethink your life.
I don't know if this changes anything for you, but there was a tweet that was leaked last week that the Grand Inquisitor is going to be the captain in that show in Discovery. Jason Isaacs.
Oh, in the new Star Trek show?
Mhm.
It changes nothing for me. Weren't they doing something really strange with that? Like it's produced by CBS, but
Yeah,
they're making it available on some sort of online feed that you have to pay for.
that's it. Like, they're going to be able to make it a little more racy in that sense, but I think you said it. The premiere is going to be available on like CBS, and then I guess if people like it, they're going to get drawn into it and or order this whole new package so they can watch it, I think, online or something
No.
like that.
Yeah, no, it's something really sketchy like that. They'll hook you with probably a great pilot episode.
The taste is free. First taste is free. I like it.
Now if you want the rest, go subscribe to CBS something online.
No, it's more
So you can
interesting
watch-
than that. I see it as these companies like ABC, CBS, they're all going to have to start contending with companies like they see how much money Netflix is making, right? Like, it's only smart for them to all TV is going to start making that transition into digital era, if you want, internet TV. That's what it's all going to boil down to. Not too long.
Sure. It just seems like a very sketchy thing, though.
We got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you like this? Oh, yeah, no. Now you're going to have to pay for it. A little extra, sucker.
I agree. I think it's kind of dicey or whatever, but I think it's going to give them more liberty to write the stories they want to tell.
Yeah, sure. Although I watched Star Trek Beyond last night. Meh.
Which one's that? Oh,
It's
that's the latest one?
It's the latest, yeah.
Okay.
Very meh. I fell asleep towards the end.
Wow.
Woke up this morning. It was late, and I had a couple adult beverages, so that didn't help. And I looked at my wife, and I'm like, what happened at the end? And she's like, I don't remember a thing. So we need to go back and watch like the last half an hour.
Jesus,
but overall,
that's not a good sign.
I was not totally impressed. And I really enjoyed part 1 and 2. For all the criticism it gets from Star Trek fans, I actually really enjoyed them.
Me too.
Especially part 1. I thought part 1 was fantastic.
Me too. And it's so sneakily J.J. Abrams style, just changing the timeline like that, being able to now move forward and write this whole new era of stories for them without it really being like, well, they already did this, but no, they haven't. Like, everything's changed now. The timeline's altered.
Yeah, they're free to do whatever they want now.
He loopholed the shit out of Star Trek.
Okay, guys, in another case of where there's smoke, there's fire, Frank Oz won't say if he's in The Last Jedi. So Variety cornered Frank Oz and had a chat with him about all things Muppets and Jim Henson. And towards the end of the interview, they snuck in a little question about Episode 8. And so his cagey answer was pretty funny. I feel like... So the question was, there are reports that you might reprise Yoda in the new Star Wars. And so Frank says, I feel like I'm a prisoner at war here. And I can only give you my name, rank, and serial number.
He's doing it, obviously.
Yeah, come on. To be true to the people who asked me, and they are kind of my family, I have to say I've been asked not to talk about it. I love Yoda. I would be happy to talk to you about it at the time they let me. He's doing Yoda, right? We're going to see Yoda in Episode 8?
Yep.
Yeah, 100% awesome sauce, confirmed. This sealed the deal for me. We'd speculated on it months ago because there were reports of him having flown out there, I believe. And yeah,
Making Star Wars, you're right. Making Star Wars had a report that Frank Oz was spotted in London and it was not for vacation. He was there on official business. So
the only other plausible explanation is, when else have you ever heard it that an actor's that's not in a movie has been asked not to speak about that movie?
I don't know. You got me.
Never.
I just think to Ian McDiarmid before Rogue One, while that was in production, somebody had asked him, are you doing anything for Rogue One? And he just flat out said, I'm not in it in any way. I haven't spoken to anybody at Lucasfilm. Palpatine's not in the movie. Not doing it. And that was the end of it. There was no, oh, well, that's a pretty cagey answer. He just, no, I'm not in the movie. So if Frank Oz is not in the movie, he would have said something along those lines. So
not necessarily, because he says that Disney's like family, right? So, if Disney's looking to stir the pot a bit, they can, just, oh, come on, just, if someone asks you,
I don't think they're looking to stir the pot just for random sake.
No, I agree with you. But that's the only way I can rationally look at it and say, that would make sense to me, is that Disney asked them, we want to kind of get the hype up big. So if someone asks you, just, kind of please say you don't know. And you, like you said, they're family to him in a way. So he said, yeah, no problem,
Well, it's also probably standard clause in his contract. You can't
Why
talk
do you believe
about
the
this.
family part of his statement? If you don't believe...
Well, just because he has such deep ties to Jim Henson and George Lucas in a way,
Yeah, but Jim Henson's not involved anymore, and neither's George Lucas. And he even criticizes in his interview, they're like, what'd you think of Rogue One and Force Awakens? He's like, haven't seen Rogue One, and Force Awakens was pretty good. J.J. Abrams, he was polite, but you could tell underneath.
Dude, did you see what he wrote? What he said about the Muppets?
Yeah, he did. Well, it was crap. So I'm
Yeah,
not surprised.
I enjoyed the Jason Segel one.
Yeah, it was all right.
The
But
second one
the
with
show, the reboot of the show was terrible.
oh yeah, you know what? I was so stoked for that. I really
Me
wanted
too.
to watch the Muppet Show. I never even watched one episode, and then it was gone. It just didn't work for again. I didn't watch it, so I have no idea why it didn't work. But just either people are through with the Muppets, or they're just
No,
not
it was the
treating them
format.
properly.
Yeah, it was the
They
format.
did the old Muppet Show was like a variety show because that was popular in the 70s. This was like sort of set up like the Office style.
yeah, they
like,
they
it was-
broke the fourth wall.
Yeah, and it was because that that's popular now, but it just didn't work for the Muppet Show. It just wasn't good.
Like, shouldn't they just go back to the variety show thing
Yeah, they should have. Yeah,
and have Dave Grohl be in every episode?
yeah.
It doesn't seem
Exactly.
that hard to do, right? Like Weezer did what song is it? Is it Island? No. Oh jeez. One of my favorite bands. They did a full video with the Muppets. Keep Fishing, I think it is. Yeah, that's it. Just do stuff like that on the Muppet Show. Just blow it out to a half hour or a hour long show. That would be hilarious. Doesn't seem that difficult, but for some reason they take these circuitous routes to oblivion.
You know who'd do that show? Mark Hamill.
Would he?
He has. in the
Harrelson?
Oh, you
past.
mean okay, I didn't know. As a guest, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the variety hour kind of deal.
I don't know of very many people who would say no. If you put together like a really cool Muppets variety show, I think a lot of people would do it.
They used to get everybody back in the day.
They should almost do like they did in the movie and have it like they should do a yearly marathon with the Muppets or something, like a phone-in charity thing. Like just keep it at once a year because I don't know at this point if the show could survive, and I totally got my fingers crossed for Muppet Babies because that's coming, I think, in the next year or two. Hope my kid digs that.
You know what they should do? There should be like an annual Muppets Christmas show.
Yeah,
If anything, a variety show at Christmas time featuring the Muppets and the who's who of celebrity guests.
I'm down.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea to me.
Which means they won't do it. Okay, so a little bit of spoiler talk, potential spoiler talk, I should say, for episode 8. Star Wars Newsnet has a little report about 3 shots from the upcoming teaser trailer for The Last Jedi. One of them, surprise, surprise, establishing an exotic city. Star Wars has always kind of given us new and exotic locales. It seems like this will be no different.
It's so funny though. I wish I can see into each of your mind's eye and see when you hear that term, what are you seeing? Because I don't know. I highly doubt we have anywhere near the same interpretation of that.
I haven't given it too much thought. What could it look like? I don't know. I mean, the report sort of suggests that it's the Dubrovnik set, and I have a sense of what that looks like just from seeing set photos. But as a city as a whole, I don't quite know what that would look like, and I can wait on that for another month until Celebration, and we probably get a trailer then. And the next shot, what was it? They talked about a procession, an important sounding procession, and they went right to the low hanging fruit. It's got to be Han's funeral.
No, they didn't say that. They said it's looking like that. I have to kind of agree in a way too. Everyone supposedly is dressed in black. We heard about these shots. What? I guess 6, 7, 8 months ago, maybe even.
Yeah, it was maybe even longer than that. But I don't think this is Han's funeral. For one, I don't think Han Solo gets a funeral of that size. At this time of Galaxy's history, he's back to being a smuggler. Yes, sure, he's a rebellion hero, but he wasn't a senator or a chancellor. He's not going to get some big state funeral. You know, if anything, if he was going to get a funeral, it would be a low-key thing at the Resistance base, or if they stuck to George Lucas's vision of where Han Solo was born and raised, or at least raised, maybe something on Kashyyyk or Corellia.
Dude, the guy's a legend, no? Like, we get that impression in The Force Awakens, like, Finn, Rey, they both kind of know of him. Like, you're Han Solo? Like, this is the Falcon? Oh my god.
Yeah, people know him, but also he's known as a criminal and a swindler.
And a hero.
He's not, again, I don't think you're going to see senators, and although they got wiped out on Hosnian Prime, but you're not going to see these big, high-shot dignitaries from around the galaxy coming around to honor Han Solo. I just don't see that.
I don't see it from a military standpoint at this point, just because they're on the defensive right now and everything that's happened. But after the heroism that he had pulled off in the last film, like dude, this guy deserves props from across the galaxy.
I don't know. I'm not crapping on Han Solo here. I don't see the logistics of the galaxy gathering to honor him. I don't see it. James, you're quiet over there. What do you think?
Well, just listening to both of you, I hadn't thought too much about it, but it makes sense that he wouldn't have a huge funeral. Even if Leia, now General Organa, is sort of high ranking, I don't know that she'd have the pull to throw him a big state service.
No, she's completely discredited.
It's probably something else.
Not to mention the fact that was it Making Star Wars again that carried that original report that people are running wild saying everybody's wearing black because they're in mourning. Most likely these black robes are to hide the actual costume underneath.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
So there's a very strong chance. Like, to me, there's no way this is a funeral. And if it's a funeral, I would sooner believe that it's a funeral for high-ranking politicians that died in the Hosnian Prime attack. If it's a funeral, which, again...
Like you said, the whole system as a whole.
Right. If it's a funeral, I think it's more for that than for Han Solo. And if, again, Han Solo gets a funeral, I think it's a low-key thing, featuring his family and friends and the Resistance. And it's done very ramshackle wherever they happen to be at that moment. And finally, a quick shot about a beat-up X-Wing flying into a hangar. Big deal.
Well, wasn't there something about the revamped X-Wings as well? The last models were T-70s. The newest ones are T-85s. They're going to look different. Modified.
Yeah, the Resistance flies the T-70s, and the Republic military uses T-85s.
Ah, cool.
That's the report, and I have no idea what the differences are, how different they look from one another, what their capabilities are. No idea.
There's 15 numbers apart, man. That's a lot.
Wow. That is some hard-hitting insight. All right. Hey, we just blazed right through the news section. And now we get to talk about twin sons. So, James, I don't know, are you going to hang around for this, or are you going to bail out until you can catch the episode?
I was torn. I really tried to get the episode tonight and watch it before, but because of the party and guests, hanging around and having coffee and stuff, I didn't get a chance. I really want to watch it. I know a bunch of what happened, but I really do want to watch it. So I'm going to let you guys chat. It'll speed things up anyways, and so I won't have to ask so many questions. And then
fair enough.
Cue me back in.
Yeah, we'll call you back in when it's time.
Enjoy, boys.
Peace.
All right, Corey, we're back talking Rebels, the long-awaited episode that saw Obi-Wan Kenobi, or should I just not call him Obi-Wan anymore? Obi-Wan facing off against Darth Maul, or just Maul, as it were, for what it turns out is the final time. Spoiler alert. So
I love how you always pull your spoiler after you say the spoiler.
Well, if StarWars.com can spoil it minutes after the episode ends, so can I.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of got spoilery a bit on Twitter, but people all day. I went dark on Twitter on Saturday. I just did I touched base a bit with people. I had a few notifications and whatnot, but yeah, for the most part, people were putting their 2 cents in, like nothing too dramatic and revealing, but I saw 1 or 2 and I was like, hey, yeah, I'm done. No, not today. I've waited
Well, I
too
mean,
long for
StarWars.com
this.
did all the damage. I mean, literally, minutes after the episode ended, they posted on Twitter, "Rest in peace, Darth Maul." It's like, whoa, guys, what are you doing?
And we still got the West Coast to think about here.
That's a serious misstep, in my opinion. And of course, there's always those that will say, if you don't want to be spoiled, stay off the internet. And of course, that's validity too, or that's valid too. But my goodness, you can do both. You can show some consideration for the audience, and you can also take the step to protect yourself from spoilers. They're not mutually exclusive things, but yeah, I didn't think that was very cool of the Star Wars Twitter account. This episode sort of pit fanboy wank against reality together here. People kind of expected this epic throwdown of 2 old enemies. But given, I mean, I'm jumping towards the end here, because let's face it, that's what we want to talk about. But given of what we saw of Obi-Wan in A New Hope, we couldn't expect that. It was sort of silly to expect that we get this big epic throwdown. Right, Corey?
Yeah, I kind of go in a different direction from you and James in that the showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan could have gone down much differently, but the fact of the matter is Obi-Wan tells Vader, like, strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine, which is true. Like, Luke has to fly on his own now, literally. And, Obi-Wan kind of guides him along the way, but Obi-Wan gave up that fight. He knew he wasn't leaving that fight. Like, even if he did try to escape, it was just too dangerous. Like, maybe he knows what he did, he had to do at that moment, and he had given his life for that. Like, he could have fought Vader probably toe-to-toe, maybe even beaten him, but okay, I granted that.
Not at that point. I mean, Vader was overpowering him. I think that's the established fact at this point. Vader was just too much for an old, weak Obi-Wan at that point.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense as well, too, but I also see it as that Obi-Wan wasn't really putting up too much of a fight. Just enough so that they can escape. Like, he pretty much vanishes before he even gets sliced in half, which is kind of a first and last in Star Wars.
Yeah. But anyway, I think people... Well, I guess let's back it up. Did Lucasfilm hypes... Can they be found guilty of hyping something that they weren't really delivering on in terms of this epic, drawn-out battle?
No. No, I can only say that after having watched it a second time as well. Because, in essence, to me, the episode was truly, like, subtly beautiful. Like, it was just really, really well done. Granted, there could have been... I mean, it wasn't given its due diligence in the sense, okay, we got a 22-minute show here, and before I even knew it, I'm watching the clock. I've been waiting for this since the end of Season 2, because I called all of this at the end of Season 2 before we even had word of Twin Sons. So I was really looking forward to this, and then I look at my clock at the last commercial break, and there's 10 minutes left in the show. It's 8:49 Eastern Time, and we haven't even seen Obi-Wan yet. So
yeah, it became obvious early on that the way the pace was going, we're not going to get this epic battle. It's not happening.
No, but it was still quite epic in its own way.
Oh, it was... The way they went, even if people weren't expecting it to go down this way, it was still a great episode, and we have so much to talk about. But it starts with the scene that we saw in the previews earlier in the week with Maul lost on Tatooine. He can sense Obi-Wan, but he can't find him. It's this needle in a haystack stuff.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's totally messing with him for sure.
Well, see, here's the problem. Maul was supposed to die in Twilight of the Apprentice, but Filoni and crew had decided that there's too much going on, so Maul can't fight Vader. That's too much, he's going to have to live to fight another day. So he moves into season 3 and becomes sort of this like hangnail. Like
he was after Ezra. It served a good purpose in that regard, really showing Ezra's dark side.
I felt like he was shoehorned into season 3. Like he was in the 2 episodes to kick off the season, where he's still trying to reel in Ezra and tempt him over to the dark side, and then Ezra rights himself almost right off the hop, and then from that point forward, once Ezra kind of gets himself back on the straight and narrow, now Darth Maul is a waste.
Well, no,
he's not doing anything.
We know the knowledge that they had gained from the holocrons. They spoke of twin sons, and Ezra didn't really understand what that meant at the beginning, but Maul sure did.
Well, right, but after Fate, the holocrons of Fate, Maul's purpose is done. What else are you going to do with this guy at this point? He's just sort of this straggler hanging over from season 2, and they're trying to figure out what to do with him.
Yeah, you make him face Kenobi. Like, that was his...
Well, right,
again,
and
there's so much to talk about in this episode. Like, oh man, like I still think the fact that what he wanted from those holocrons, he wanted to find hope, which is so odd to me. I think that still rings true by the end of this episode, which I guess we'll get to. But
yeah, we're definitely there's a lot. I mean, I got a bunch of notes here. I'm sure you've got notes.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Let's just go through the whole episode in a way. So Maul's lost at the beginning. My one kind of qualm with that is that, he's been consumed with this for so long. He's finally made his way to Tatooine. He's quite a powerful guy. Like, are you seriously going there with are you that blind with revenge that you're going there with no plan, totally unprepared? Like, I get that you can't find him, Obi-Wan, but to be lost and on the brink of death is kind of unacceptable for me for someone of his stature. Just to go there and then finally spur the moment and be like, what can I do? Like, what am I going to do? Wait a minute.
Well, it's an inconsistent thing, right? You would think that he would start at a settlement and say, where's the Jedi? And just start asking questions and following leads until he's led to him. Because
it's possible. Like you said, maybe he's been there for a good long time. Like, we haven't seen him, like you said, since the beginning of the season, and he knew where he wanted to go.
We saw him in, was it no, the episode on Dathomir where the Darksaber first makes its reappearance.
Oh, you're right.
We saw him there. It's been a while, but it hasn't been that long. But you're right. He could have been on Tatooine for a while, looking and looking. But I again, this plays into why I think they didn't know what to do with Maul at this point. How was Maul going to lure Obi-Wan out? Well, I didn't like what they did. I didn't like how he decided to use the holocron to summon Ezra, who was going to follow him there. It just seemed like a lot of leaps of logic to get Ezra all the way over onto Tatooine, which would draw Obi-Wan out. I didn't think that was very cool.
I kind of agree with you there. I think Maul's smart. He knew, like, he I guess thinking about it in that moment of near death. Yeah, like, if anyone, why not Ezra? Like, Ezra's has this kind of special relationship with him, this connection, if you will.
Which I thought that connection was severed. Wasn't that one of the things from that episode from Dathomir, that Ezra goes to do this strange ritual to sever the connection with Maul? Wasn't that connection supposed to be done with?
Well, they both had pieces of the holocron, which is, I guess, part of it as well. And even Kanan says something about the holocrons, just saying how unpredictable and how they have basically a life of their own. And they do what they want.
That just means the writers don't know what to do, and if they can write themselves whatever yarn they want to write.
No, I kind of get what you're saying, but it still made sense to me to have Ezra be the... I can't believe we didn't call this episode, like, step by step in a way. But I want to say something first about Rex's and Hera's short-sightedness, if you will. They know what happened. They saw what happened at the beginning of the season with, was it Steps in the Shadow? And then we also had, what was the Holocrons of Fate. Like, they knew what Ezra had gone through in that moment was of quite some significance that would come back to at one point. So when Ezra says, hey, I'm feeling something here, like something's not right, like I got to go to Tatooine. Granted, Hera is a big part of the army now, the cause, and she's really showing her pre-general colors, kind of, if you will, by just saying, hey, Lothal, we need you here. That's where you need to be. But I think both her and Rex, they're so military orientated, they should have kind of listened to him a little more, in the sense that they've seen what's happened. Again, like Maul, Kenobi, like they just kind of brushed it off as if, hey, if Kenobi was alive, he'd be here.
Well, no, I think they're right. I think they're right to think that. Especially Rex. Although he's not the one that said it, but listen, the rebellion is planning an all-out assault on Lothal. They can't have their best guy who knows Lothal the best running around chasing the Sith who may or non-Sith. They can't have this guy just leaving at the 11th hour to go follow some sort of hunch.
I guess.
And to what end?
But it's the Force, like at this point in his career with them, I think they should have kind of trusted him, just because of the significance.
Wait a minute. Ezra's been all over the map this season. He's been super inconsistent.
I agree
and
with you.
At some points, he's been incompetent.
Well, even in this episode, again, like he was used. Like Maul simply used him to lure out Obi-Wan. Like he says the words, "I'm gonna tend to his noble heart." So he's gonna use Ezra to produce
He
this.
plays Ezra like a fiddle.
Exactly.
Again.
Which is kind of sad.
Well, and again, so you're kind of proving my point for me.
But at the same,
Hera,
in the same
Hera
rate,
knows.
Can you blame...
Ezra, you can't go. You can't go. You need to stay here. We have a big mission planned. You're a big part of it. You need to be here. And of course, Ezra being Ezra, he goes.
I can't blame Ezra though. Come on, we're talking Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul. Like he's seeing these things and being a part of this connection that they have no idea what he's talking about. And he has to go with his gut. Like he has to feel, he feels the Force, and he's got to go with that instinct. And
well, he regretted it.
he did, and he learned a lesson, hopefully. But in the same rate, I can't blame him in that regard.
I can blame him. It's been one too many times where he's not listened to direct orders. So I hope by at this point the message has finally gotten through to listen to Hera, listen to Kanan. Stop running off because you think you know what you're doing, because you don't.
Yeah. You're in the wrong place.
Even Obi-Wan tells him straight up, right off the hop.
Yeah, he is. And he tells him that Maul used him, but he explained it to him in such a gentle Jedi way. Like, it was so beautiful, man.
All right, so I mean, we're going through this somewhat chronologically. He disobeys Hera's direct order to not leave, and he tricks some flight deck guy, sneaks off, grabs an A-wing.
Chopper. I knew Chopper was sneaking along for the ride. You saw him in the corner there, like.
Well, yeah, you see him sneaking in the background watching, but again, it's an animated show. It's something we should let slide. But how the hell did Chopper hop up into that A-wing, into the cockpit so quickly? Like there was almost like a no gap in time there for him to do that.
Dude, it's Chopper. Come on. Moving on.
Yeah, I know it's Chopper. That's my point. And then of course we get Sand People once Ezra gets to Tatooine.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, especially as soon as we see the holocron on the ground. You're like, okay, we're gonna see Maul any minute now, and then you're like. Yeah,
pretty cool. That was a pretty cool surprise to have the Sand People sort of spring out of nowhere and attack Ezra and destroy his A-wing.
Poor Chopper too, man. He almost, that was close. Too close.
And Ezra kind of trudging through the waste. I don't know if that's the Jundland Waste or not, but he's walking through the desert, dying of heat, walking through a sandstorm. Things are not looking good.
That was really, really cool. Like, well done. The second viewing, my first viewing, I was so confused. A bit disappointed. Again, the first viewing, like, I was kind of like, oh man, this should have been, we should have had more of Obi-Wan Maul. and less of this trudging through the desert. But it's almost as if that desert is like a reflection of all three of them being there at the same time, you know?
Go
Like,
on.
It's
The people want to know what you're thinking.
it's like a maelstrom of the Force, man. Like on Tatooine, it's like this hub at the moment where like these three people should not be there. So it's like a manifestation of that almost.
Well, Obi-Wan should be there. He's
Yeah,
got his purpose.
agreed. But the other two making the three things are out of whack with the Force, and that storm is a representation of that.
Okay, fair enough. Then finally, Obi-Wan makes his appearance once Ezra sort of craps out. He can't take the heat anymore. Kind of, did you just sort of pass out in the desert?
Yeah, he didn't leave Chopper. Good on you, Ezra. Chopper conked out first.
Yeah, battery's dead, and Ezra's more or less drained as well. So
It kind of got to me too, where Ezra's kind of just like he hugs Chopper. He's like, "I'm sorry."
And all the while, Darth Maul sort of taunting Ezra through his visions. And anyway, let's skip ahead to Obi-Wan owns a dewback, which is pretty cool.
Dewback.
Yeah, and they have their little chat, which Stephen Stanton just nails. Alec Guinness, the mannerisms in his speech, everything is just done. The animators did a amazing job. Everything about Obi-Wan was 100% faithful to Alec Guinness.
I
couldn't believe that they did it.
I couldn't believe it either, bro. Like Steven Stanton, like you said, the mannerisms and the tonality of it, like I was like, wow, just the pauses in his speech in certain sentences, you know, like he nailed it. Like that's an understatement.
Absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, out of the park.
Well, I feel like Maul and Obi-Wan at this point had become mirror images of one another. They're both these lone warriors without a master at this point. But they both have the same goal of wanting to get rid of the Sith. One because for revenge, and the other to restore balance to the Force. So when we finally get to the end battle, and Obi-Wan tells Ezra to get lost, and finally Ezra listens. I could have swore Ezra would have not listened and turned around and come back to get involved.
He gave him some lip, but I'm here for you. And then Obi-Wan's just like, go
it's not your responsibility. Get out of here. I'll mend these old wounds.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised. I'm still surprised. Ezra, I guess he's like a little bit awestruck by being in the presence of Kenobi. That, okay, I'll go.
Well, I think his wisdom was just so clear. Like, again, this is not your place. You've been used. I'm going to take care of this. Like, your place is where you were. Like, it's all part of the patience in the Force, you know? It was a hard-learned lesson.
And then you get this great standoff between Obi-Wan and Maul, which is really where all the tension was. You could tell that Maul just wants to tear into him. And Kenobi's just standing there. Doesn't even have his lightsaber out yet.
No.
And you could just tell good. Maul is just champing at the bit. He wants to fight. It was a really good examination of how these two characters have grown, because for as clever as Maul had and devious as he had become over the years, he really at the core was still the same hateful, violent, vengeful person that just wants everything to be a bloodbath. While Obi-Wan had grown.
Obi-Wan had
by leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds. Maul killed Duchess Satine, Obi-Wan's only love. And he was just so calm, cool, and collected. Cool as a cucumber, man. But Maul, again, Holocrons of Fate, he was looking for hope. And which is super interesting, because he wasn't looking for Obi-Wan. But once he found out that Obi-Wan, they read into it too much. Like, Luke is the new hope. He's the chosen one, as per Obi-Wan.
Except he's not.
You don't know that. We don't know that.
Well, Lucas said that.
Over, bro.
Lucas said that Anakin was the chosen one.
Yeah, but even Obi-Wan, like he knew that too. You know, like Anakin was the chosen one.
Well, at this point in the galaxy, at this point in the timeline, Obi-Wan has abandoned that thought because Anakin turned. He's Vader now. How can he still be the chosen one? He joined the Sith.
Well, the answer is his offspring.
Right. So that's why once we had this ultra quick battle where they both kind of do poses towards one another, it was almost in a way done that sort of outlined the history between the two characters. They were showing familiar poses from back in their youth, and then Obi-Wan finally assumes the same pose that Qui-Gon took when he battled Maul, and Maul takes the bait, and that's when he launches his attack and tries to get at Obi-Wan using the same like cross check to the face that he used on Qui-Gon before killing him. But Obi-Wan had none of it. He still had the hands, right? You know, like an old hockey player. The legs go on them. They can't skate anymore, but they always have the hands. So Obi-Wan just quick block, chops, and gives Maul the vertical slice.
Yeah.
That was the key.
It was a 3-hit combo. It was boom boom slash. Like you're done. Like right through you're done. Through your lightsaber, through your body. Matt Keego called it. Our good friend Matt Keegan, Knight of the Commonwealth. He said, he's like Obi-Wan should really go vertical this time.
Yeah, the horizontal clearly doesn't work, so you got to try it in another method. And it worked,
It worked.
It makes sense because you couldn't have this fight outdo the Phantom Menace. It wouldn't make sense to have two guys in their 50s or 60s looking and looking better than they did in their 20s at the height of their powers. Like it's like, when would you like to see Michael Jordan play one-on-one against Magic Johnson? Would you like to see that in their 20s? Or now when they're both like 50 pounds over their playing weight and 30 years past their prime?
Well, to me, it really spoke to... We saw Maul kick some serious ass in this series so far. Like, he took out the Seventh Sister, like, no problem. Granted, again, like, it was his weakness is being blinded by rage. Again, In Search of Hope finds Kenobi, misread that message. Just from that henceforth, his mission of finding Hope took the back burner to him getting his revenge on Kenobi, right? Like, he just became blinded with that.
Yeah, which shows in the end how dumb Maul still was. Like, the guy has no restraint, no ability to take a step back and analyze what's happening. He just goes straight ahead like the attack dog he's always been.
I think it's bred into him because the two of them have had such... Obi-Wan is his life in a way, if you think about it. We don't know much about the early origins of Maul, but he had Palpatine and Obi-Wan. That's it. Like, those are the two people he most connected with in life, it seems like. Maybe Savage as well, but...
Ezra?
Yeah, Ezra was getting up there. He had met him and was like, ooh. Oh.
Anyway, I'm glad that the showrunners, Filoni and crew, and Justin Ridge, they showed restraint here. They just showed what a master can do, right? Bing, bang, boom, fight over.
Well,
because here's what really is amateur Maul, still doing amateur things and not thinking things through, and the master caught him real quick.
Obi-Wan, after having seen this episode, Obi-Wan is 120% on point. Like, this guy is not getting complacent. He's not getting all laxy-daisy being on that planet. Like, he's, if anything, upped his Jedi awareness being there and reached new levels of Jedidom, if you will.
Well, he's done nothing but meditate and study.
Like, he even tells Maul, he's like, look what I've overcome. Like, just in your face, man. Like, you don't know what I've been through. Like...
Yeah, I mean, they've both been through a lot. None of it good. But Obi-Wan clearly made the better of it. Made use of his time, whereas Maul just kind of skulked around and was just angry the whole time.
Yep. And he realizes it, I think, by the end of it all. God, it was so good.
Yeah, sure. Maul does realize it by the end. Once it was I guess pretty fitting. Like, some people are not pleased with the way Maul went down so quickly to Obi-Wan, but to me it makes perfect sense. Like, Maul's life was a tragedy, and to have him go down softly like this sort of in a way, to me, at this point, makes sense. And so you see him get the slice, and he drops to his knees, and he's clearly done for.
I almost thought for a second he was gonna slide in half, but then I was like, I kind of reined it in a bit. Okay, it's Disney Channel, but I seriously almost thought he was gonna slide in half the way he was staring at him for a second. You know, I was like, oh my god.
Well, Obi-Wan catches him on his way as he's falling, and he's just sort of cradling his head, and Maul says, "Is it the Chosen One?" And Obi-Wan's like, "Yeah, and he will avenge us." So they again,
no. Oh, you're taking much away from the gravity of that situation, bro. Like,
well, you want me to reenact the whole thing?
Well, no. Like, Obi-Wan grabs him, and then not only does he like hold his head gently, like cradle him and comfort him in death, like he puts his arm on his hand on his arm and everything. Like it's so beautiful. And like Maul's the one who asks, okay, like he's the Chosen One. Obi-Wan says, yes, he is. And then Maul replies, he will avenge us. Like us, like together, almost as a brotherhood, you know? Like he has been really screwed over by the Sith, like big time. And Obi-Wan's fighting for that same goal in a way, which is why I think Maul was kind of still looking for hope. Because he was bent on kind of screwing over the Sith first. And then once Obi-Wan came into the equation...
Their goals are the same, but really, in a way, they're different. Like, Obi-Wan is looking to restore balance to the Force, which means getting rid of the Sith. But his ultimate goal is to restore balance to the Force, whereas Maul just wants to kill the Sith. He could care less about the balance of the Force.
100%. And like you said, Obi-Wan's the master, and Maul is just not seeing things on the way they should be seen in a way. Like, Obi-Wan is focused, and whereas Maul is just blinded.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a really poignant scene, and it added a layer for me anyway, when they said, "Is he the Chosen One?" And Obi-Wan's like, "Yeah, he is." And us at home going, "No, he's not."
No, I went with it. Like I'm not on the same page as you there.
Well, then it means it means you're also not on George Lucas's page.
That's fine. Why did he call the movie A New Hope? Well, it's been said before, even at the beginning of this episode, Obi-Wan's saying, "A New Hope."
I don't want a tangent.
Exists.
Luke is not the Chosen One. Let's just get off that tangent. Luke isn't the Chosen One. He's the catalyst to help redeem Anakin, who is the Chosen One.
Why does anyway? At the beginning, you see Obi-Wan in the holocron saying, "A new hope still remains." That's
fine. Luke is a new hope, but he's the hope that he's going to bring back the Chosen One, which he does. He gets his father to open up and embrace the light side again. It's not that Luke is not the Chosen One. I mean, that it's cut and dry. Like George Lucas has said, no, Anakin is the Chosen One.
I don't know. He's the last Jedi now. It's pretty chosen to me, man.
Okay, well, I mean, call up George Lucas, argue with him, tell him he's wrong.
It's okay. It's not his story anymore.
Oh, come on. They're not. Are you suggesting that they're going to undo that and make Luke be the Chosen One?
Well, in a way, I know what you're saying, like, but to me, in the way I look at the story, I think Luke and Leia are both a part of the Chosen One's equation. They're both variables that are part of Vader, you know, like, granted, okay, yes, they brought him back and whatever, but having spawned those two children, it's all a part of it, you know what I mean? So of course
it's all a part of it, but the Chosen One is Anakin. The kid born without a father, the kid conceived from midichlorians. That his prophecy came true.
Yeah, the Mortis trilogy, but we still don't know. We'll see. We got still episode 8 and 9 to come, bro.
We don't know what. Oh, you mean well, again, we're kind of going around in circles here, but if it's about the Chosen One, that story is closed. We know who it is. It's been decided.
Well,
and it's not going to be undone.
Well,
they're not going to go against. They're not going to untangle. They're not. There's no way. There's no way they're going to undo what Lucas has done. and say, yeah,
What's
no,
the
we're
point
gonna
of
make Luke
making
the
new
chosen one,
movies then? At that point, the chosen one's the one to bring balance to the Force. Like, unless
which he did.
buff things are pretty out of whack right now, I would say.
It looks like the Force goes in and out of balance all
Every
the time.
30 years, no.
Evidently.
But regardless, I just think seeing Maul go like that was so beautiful in Obi-Wan's arms. Man,
Yeah,
it was-
that's what made the episode great. Obi-Wan's compassion, even for his greatest enemy, was still there. Whereas if Maul had done that, he would have just let Obi-Wan drop.
You want to hear something else that's really great, Carl? I knew you were against me, tooth and nail on this, but at the end of Twilight of the Apprentice, because Maul was in the equation, not only did I say that Kenobi was coming back, I also said if Kenobi came back, Luke was going to make a cameo.
Well, okay, let's...
I know, you're going to loophole me and say that that's the limit of a cameo, but I agree with you there.
I might have to edit in some audio from episode 41 of the podcast where you said things like, "Ooh, Ezra and Luke will be buddies." Where
what I was trying to do there is think of a way for. No, I can't believe I didn't come up with this ending because it's so perfect. It was so predictable after having seen it. But what I was trying to think of by saying Ezra be with Luke is that getting Luke away from the main action, because Maul wasn't stupid. Maul found it out right away, again, which I said to you last week. He asked him straight up, "Why are you here? It's really odd that you're here. You're protecting something." "Oh no, not something, someone."
And
so
that's when the wires touched. That's when you know that Maul's finished, because that's when you see Obi-Wan's face light up because he's ignited his lightsaber. That tears it for Obi-Wan.
He touched a button there, definitely.
That was it. Like once Maul figured that part out, Obi-Wan was not going to let him leave the planet alive. That's end of the story.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, what you were saying about Luke making an appearance are you went on two different extremes of the cameo scale, where you said that Ezra and Luke should do a Beggar's Canyon thing. They should be buddies, and Ezra should just remove Luke from the action.
I didn't say that they should. I said they could. What I continually said to you was that somehow...
I know what you said.
Somehow the writers can squirm him and write him in there somehow. I didn't know how they were going to do it, although having looked back at it now, it's so predictable, perfect, the way that Obi-Wan was just looking over the homestead, and
that's as far as you could have gone with Luke. You could not have him. But no, you don't agree, because you said they should go to Anchorhead and be buddies, and
no, they could have done that too, but
no, they couldn't have. No, they couldn't have.
Not in a 22-minute episode.
They could not have done that in a 3-hour episode. Luke could not have had a role. Luke could not have had a
If you could bring Leia back, you could bring Luke back.
No, absolutely not.
Either way,
how would you have him palling around with Ezra and staying out of danger? Even it would be a goofy side mission during what is otherwise a very heavy episode. Like, it would have been so silly. Don't get him into danger, but don't use the Force, because Luke has to come into A New Hope not even knowing what the Force is.
Bottom line, my point was, if Obi-Wan's in an episode, Luke's in that episode. That was my point. And I didn't know how to write that in there, but I knew he wouldn't be directly involved with Obi-Wan, obviously. But I said there's got to be at least some kind of reference to him. And they not only did they mention the conversation between Maul and Obi-Wan, but the ending was just so stunning visually. I had goosebumps, man. The hair on my neck stood up when I heard Beru Lars.
Yep. No, that was it. The way they handled it was perfect. I have no problem at all with how they handled it.
And it was the original voice work, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because that voice is unmistakable to me. Luke.
Yeah. No, they cut that out of A New Hope.
That was perfect, bro. When I heard that voice, I was looking at my TV like, oh my God, is he there? Like, I was straining my eyes the first time, like, what's going on? I think I see something.
But it's funny, the way that you saw Luke running across the horizon, which, again, this stretches the definition of cameo. It almost looked like the way he was running, the way he looked like the way a child would run. Like, he's a teenager at this point. He's 16, 17 years old at this point. Like, but the way he was running looked more like a 7-year-old.
I didn't even get it that well, to be honest. I've seen it twice now in the episode, and I barely catch him running.
Anyway, it was handled really, really well. I'm glad they went down that road, but it could not go one step further, in my opinion.
23% of fans said that on 109 votes, I think it was, 23% said, yeah, Obi-Wan and Luke. So, bro.
That's fine. Hey, again, stretching the definition of cameo, hats off. Luke was technically in it.
Exactly.
But I'm sure you're going to have people out there saying that this doesn't... I'm sure people are going to be going out there saying, I don't know if that really counts as a cameo. You barely saw a thing at all.
You saw him nonetheless. He made an appearance, and that was the bottom line for me. Like, come on.
I know, but
we didn't even know Obi-Wan was in this episode before I even ran this poll. My Twitter feed, I can't even go back far enough to copy-paste this link to the poll because it's so far back now. It was before season 3. Like, before we knew any of all of this, before we knew of the Holocrons of Fate, like, this is a call and a half on my part, and yeah, man, I'm giving myself props here.
Yeah, I mean, if you throw enough shit at the wall, something will stick. Moving on.
You bastard. I know, Dave.
Anyway, a big question here. Before we got to close this off here because we still got more to get to, and we're pushing the clock. The big question for me: does Ezra tell the rest of his friends that he's found Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No. I think he's learned his lesson, and he basically tells Zeb, like, straight up off the bat, like, we won't see Maul anymore. Like you kind of get the impression that that's all you need to know. So, moving on.
You think he keeps the secret?
Yeah, I do. I really
Knowing
do.
how badly that they could... Because remember, Ezra doesn't know why he's there. He was not there for the conversation.
Now Ezra realizes... when Obi-Wan tells him, like, your place is not here. Like, my place is here, and I'm doing my thing here, and I know lots of stuff. Like, I've been communing with all kinds of people.
Whoa! You're making leaps here. He just tells Ezra, your place is not here. That doesn't tell Ezra any further information.
He says a lot of things to Ezra.
Yeah, no, but he doesn't say anything else other than your place is not here. It doesn't say I have a job to do here. He doesn't say any of that, and
well,
Ezra,
he knows that Maul's there, and I saw someone tweet this basically. Is it that he's really that power? Like, maybe he charged up Chopper first, and Chopper filled him in. Like, hey, Maul's here. His name's Ezra Bridger, but you almost get the impression that he's just like, yeah, I know Maul's here. You think I'm stupid? Like, your name's Ezra Bridger. You don't think I know who you are?
No, but the point I'm getting at is. Ezra still thinks that Obi-Wan could be invaluable to the rebellion. And he knows what Hera said. Do you really think that he'd be hiding on the backwater planet if he knew what was going on?
Yeah, but...
And Rex kind of echoes the same sentiments. Ezra takes that... Nothing changes in Ezra's perception. Why wouldn't he say, guys, I found him. I found Kenobi. He's alive.
Because Obi-Wan tells him, like, look, like, I'm here for a reason.
No, he didn't tell him that.
In other words, he does tell him that. Like, you're in the wrong place. Like,
he just says you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I don't think he tells him anything that I have a job to do here.
There's a quote that he tells him. I can't remember now, but, you know, it's kind of like, in my opinion, it lets Ezra know that, you know, Obi-Wan's doing something there that Ezra needs to be patient about. That he doesn't necessarily... Ezra knows that he doesn't need to know why Obi-Wan is there. And that's a lesson that he learned by having done everything that he did.
Suddenly he's learned the lesson?
Yeah, it was a pretty he really messed things up.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. And I'm not convinced that Obi-Wan told him anything that dude, keep your mouth shut. I'm here for a reason. Don't tell anybody anything. And Ezra's not good at keeping secrets or listening to orders, so I don't know. I mean, I agree. I don't think he's going to tell anybody anything because that opens up a whole new can of worms. If Kanan and Hera find out that Obi-Wan is still alive, well, God damn it, we gotta go get him. We can't just let him sit there.
I think Ezra understands the gravitas of the situation. Like I think he realizes Obi-Wan's there for a reason, and his destiny is there, and I need to accept that. Whereas my destiny is on Atollon right now, and I shouldn't be here. But Obi-Wan's destiny lies on a different path than ours.
Maybe they explain that further, but I think as it stands now, that information I don't think is there. I think Ezra is just primed to spill the beans, but I don't think he will because he can't. The parameters of the show say that he can't. But anyway, it's time to wrap this up. Final thoughts. I think we just need to give a huge standing O to Stephen Stanton for his job with Kenobi. Dave Filoni, Henry Gilroy wrote Kenobi in such a faithful way. It was perfect. Sam Witwer. Fist bump for Sam Witwer, as I said on Twitter. Did a great job with Maul over the last almost 10 years. And Kevin Kiner also deserves some kudos. The music throughout this episode was incredible. All right. Are we done, Corey? Anything else you want to say?
It was a great episode. I was happy with it. And at first I was kind of confused. Watching it a second time, I kind of settled down. I let the dust settle a bit, and I kind of had a different set of eyes on it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And now we've got 1 week to wait for the season finale, which is going to feature Death Troopers. It's going to bring Thrawn back. It looks like it's going to bring the Mandalorians into the fold. Although they were the ones that picked up Ezra and brought him back to Atollon, so it's hard to believe that the Mandalorians won't be the ones helping out. Anyway, that's it for Rebels. Fantastic episode, and one for the books, I believe. So, but now it's time for an edition of Another Kind, and we welcome back James to finally get a chance to hear ads once again. This is one of our favorite parts of the week, where we hear from the first knight of the Commonwealth. So let's do that now. Let's see what ads has cooking for us this week, and then we'll kick that around for a bit.
Hello, lads. So I have just sat down and watched Star Wars Rebels, the Twin Sons episode, and I really don't know what to make of it. I think I need a bit of time to digest it, really. I really enjoyed it, but there was just something that didn't quite work for me. So I'll probably comment on that in future shows. My question this week concerns Chewbacca and his role in the upcoming films. Recently, John Boyega celebrated his birthday, and various tweets were sent out, and one of them was a picture of him and Chewbacca. And I wondered whether or not you thought that maybe those two would be put together in future films, now that Han Solo has left the story. So, yeah, do you think Chewbacca and Finn might become the new Han Solo and Chewbacca? Or do we see Chewie hanging out with anyone else? At the end of Force Awakens, obviously he did go off with Rey, but personally I think Rey will spend a lot of time with other people now. So Chewie's going to need somebody to form a storyline with. So your thoughts on that would be great. Hope you have a great week. I look forward to listening as always, and long live the Commonwealth.
And there goes ads. Lovely chap. So good to hear from ads. So Corey, could Finn and Chewie be the next quote-unquote dynamic duo of the Star Wars galaxy?
It's a really interesting question, because they did seem to have some kind of rapport going on there. I don't see it really getting that established in that movie unless, in episode 8, unless something changes. I don't know. I see R2 and Chewie kind of remaining on Act 2. I've said that a while. And I think reports have said the same thing as well. And the impression we get at the end of TFA is that, Chewie's co-piloting with Rey now. Like, Han kind of took her on, and Chewie's kind of taking her under his wing as well. That's the way I understood it. But I understand the dynamic of the question, because they again had an interesting dynamic between the two of them, where he kind of bandaged him up and stuff, and it makes sense that they're kind of two single guys in a way, But
No, I don't think Chewie's single. I think he's married, dude.
But he doesn't want to go home. His life debt's over to Han.
I mean, obviously it's over. James, could you see these two as a team up?
I could, but I don't. I agree. I think I see more likely it'll be Rey. And maybe he doesn't feel his life debt's over if he knows that Han has more than one kid.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
not that.
Or does he feel like?
But
does the life debt, is it solely on Han, or does it carry over to expand to the rest of Han's family? Because that would also then include Leia
and Kylo.
And well, I mean, to Kylo, who he tried to kill.
Yeah, and who killed Han right in front of him.
It is an interesting dynamic between the two, Finn and Chewie, that is. But I tend to agree that at this point it seems pretty clear, and at least for the time being in The Last Jedi, that Chewie will be with Rey. But that's not to say that at some point that Finn and Chewie can't be buddies and pal around the galaxy together on these missions.
It'd be nice. Maybe it makes sense at the end of this movie that the only way, because Chewie is, if he's not intertwined with Han, it's the Falcon. So maybe Rey kind of moves past the Falcon, because it almost seems as if it's her ship now. So maybe she kind of passes that on to Finn.
Yeah, it seems like Rey almost kind of slips into Han's role as captain of the Falcon, ergo Chewie goes with Rey. But it seems like Rey at some point is going to elevate beyond, someone who just flies around the galaxy with a Wookiee.
Well, what
seems like she's due for some like galactic importance.
What if what Ads put his finger on was not a budding relationship, but a symmetry between those characters, because Finn is going to replace Chewie as co-pilot and sidekick of the Falcon. Like
if Chewie retires?
Yeah, he goes back, his life debt's paid, he goes home after some point in the next movie, and Finn becomes this,
like you said, goes home and doesn't get killed off.
Or whatever. Hopefully he doesn't get killed off.
Never.
But
Chewie forever, man.
But yeah, maybe they're setting up Finn to be the co-pilot and Rey's sidekick. They've already sort of established a pretty interesting dynamic relationship there in the first movie, quite comedic too.
It's interesting too. Can you guys ever see Chewie as the head, like the pilot of the Falcon, or is he always designated as the co-pilot for some reason?
Like Chewie's always the sidekick to me.
Yeah, it's odd, eh?
I mean, that's just what some people are. That's it. You're a sidekick. I can see, again, not in episode 8, but I could see at some point, and it doesn't even have to be on screen. It could be in a novel or a comic book. But I could see a really fun adventure taking shape between Chewie and Finn, because you would get the sense that it could be a really funny story. Yeah,
a lot of bickering.
Yeah, because Finn's kind of a bumbler, and you would have Chewie trying to keep the thing on the rails. But again, Chewie's the sidekick. He's not the alpha dog. At least not when it comes to this crew. Maybe with his Wookiee friends he is, but
I think he would be with Finn. He wasn't with Han, but I think he would be with just about any other human.
Yeah, I think he'd almost be like the father figure, just like or someone who owns a bunch of cats, just keeping everybody sort of on the same page instead of being like the out in front leader.
Yeah, and Chewie does love him. At the end of TFA again, he's the one who carries him off Starkiller.
Yeah, I think there's something there. I frankly, I hope it's something that we get to see, even once. I'll be happy if it happens one time in a format that would be appropriate, I guess, to exploring the type of humor that those two would definitely bring.
Well,
to any
they're
any
definitely
story.
two military specialists, so it's not a far stretch. Again, like Rey is gonna move on with her story. She doesn't necessarily need the Falcon as a part of her story. The Falcon's usually a part of the, the Jedi are kind of doing their thing, and the
Well, I
war
disagree
battle,
there.
like,
I think they set up the Falcon to be part of her story. Like she was like in tune with the Falcon and stuff. They made it look like she was the next captain.
I'm just
They
going
did.
from the
They
sense
did
of
make
the,
it look like that.
No, they did 100%. But like at a point, like again, like maybe at the end of this movie, like she meets back up with Finn and says, like, "Hey, like here are the keys to the Falcon. Take care of her," kind of deal, Not a scratch. Like I got to go with this guy here. Like we got our thing to do, but you and Chewie got to go blow up the third Star Killer or whatever,
Oh no, don't say that.
Please. No more. What happened to the second Star Killer?
Oh, we're moving this is the end of episode 8 now.
Oh,
So
God.
they just blew up the second Star Killer.
Jesus. No, it is interesting though. I mean, there would have to be some sort of gymnastics going on here to separate Rey from the Falcon or separate Chewie from the Falcon, because at this point it seems like they both belong or are connected to that ship, unless it ends up being like a party of 3 or 4. Rey, Finn, and Chewie as a weirdo happy family.
And Luke. Don't forget Luke.
And Poe.
And BB-8.
Anyway, to answer Ad's question, I hope we see it. I would like to see Finn and Chewie hanging out together
I would like to see
in
it
at
too.
least one story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you
I'd
said
definitely
on
like
the
to see it.
intro of ads, you said one of the favorite parts of our show, which isn't true. For me, I don't even do this show to talk to you guys at all. I do it purely to hear ads questions. So,
Well, by this point, Ads has heard our breakdown of Twin Sons, and I'd be curious to hear what Ads has to say about that, because he wasn't entirely thrilled, or he had a couple of qualms with it, I think.
He did, but he after a second time watching it, it was same thing as me. Like the first time around, it's always hard to on an episode like this. Like your mind's all over the place. Like you're expecting something, and it's hard to analyze the first time around. Almost like Rogue One.
Yeah, I mean, you take in a whole lot, and you need some time to digest it. But that's it for Ads Edition this week. Thank you again, sir. I mean, I don't know how many Ads Editions we've had, but it feels like it's been a lot.
Thank God for that.
yeah, we need more ads editions. We should do 2 per show.
Well, that's the thing. Usually he does throw 2 questions at us, which makes it doubly impressive that we've done. Oh, I'm going to say we've done something like 50 Ads Editions.
No.
When you split up the questions,
Oh, maybe yes.
when you consider that many times he asks 2 questions. He's a
I'm
human
gonna-
dynamo. That adds over there.
I'm going to say 36 questions he's asked us so far.
Could be a fair number.
I'll take the under.
Booyah.
All right. Also, not to be outdone, we've got a question from Dave Donovan. It's a 2-parter. So, Dave says, I recently got the latest edition of the totally amazing complete Star Wars location book. There are a number of questions and possibilities raised from little nuggets within this book, but I'll focus on 2. Firstly, it talks about Yoda on Dagobah and says, quote, without distractions or any means of leaving Dagobah to confront the Emperor or Darth Vader on his own, Yoda has been able to devote the years of his exile to pondering ancient Jedi texts, meditating on the deepest mysteries of the Force, and using his Jedi skills to communicate with Obi-Wan and other exiles. That part in asterisks. I think Dave's trying to draw attention to that there. So does this leave the door open for Ezra, Kanan, Ahsoka? Remember, it could also frame There Is Another in a totally different way, meaning not Leia. Interested to hear what you make of other exiles, as he has no technological means to communicate with anyone on Dagobah. So let's tackle this one first before we get to part 2. James, what do you think about this?
First, thanks, Dave. Always love Dave's question and insights. He thinks long and hard about this stuff. So the Yoda thing, I brought this up before and said, like, it bothers me a little bit that Yoda isn't sort of more, that they would ever try to demystify Yoda. Because to me, he had all this time to, like, just ponder on the Force, and he was super old and, like, the wisest. I think Yoda his legacy should have gone down a little bit differently. But I think it does leave the door open for a couple of things. Especially, they can retcon that line, there is another. They can definitely use that to their advantage. It doesn't matter what it meant before. And I like the idea that they leave that door open. It also, although I brought this up before too, makes it odd that he never mentions the Bendu. If he's, like, got the ability to force communicate with other people and stuff, it's sort of weird that we don't hear about the Bendu until, that point in Rebels.
Maybe Bendu and Yoda just don't get along.
Yeah, but he'd still
the
mention
Bendu's
it.
the middle. The Bendu's kind of just like, I'll reach out to you if I need to. Like,
say what you want. It's weird that he doesn't mention him.
No, I got you. But maybe he knows about him. Like, Yoda has very few limited speaking lines. Like, we don't know that he doesn't know about him. I would definitely put my money on the fact that he does know about him.
Of course he does. That's what makes it weird, Corey.
It's not necessarily, like, why does he have to tell Luke that? Like, he's got other things to tell Luke.
Well, maybe he knows Bendu won't help.
Exactly.
Or maybe Bendu's gone by this point.
Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Something like that.
But the idea of the gray... Anyways, whatever. It's just... I find that just a small little detail. But overall, I like the idea that they leave the door open for one of or more of the, Rebels cast to make it. Because, hey, there is another.
Yeah, I want to just believe wholeheartedly that there could be others, but there is a very specific line in Jedi where the ghost Obi-Wan tells Luke, the other Yoda spoke of is your twin sister. Like, he kind of opens and closes that door.
Yeah, they got to take that scene out, I guess, in the next edition then.
No, I 100% agree with that. Like, that's when it comes to know there is another, like, it's a direct reference to Leia. Like, it's fun to ponder this stuff over. David actually sent me this either, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or like a private message or whatever, and I asked him right away, like, is this canon? Like, where'd you get this? And he told me
that
it was
book is
from this
canon.
book. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, so it's kind of almost as if, like, what happened in the last episode, Rebels, the Force is how you see it. Like, everything is up in the air. So how's this for you, James? The Jedi that you know right now, the Jedi that you love, that you don't want to see go, like Yoda and Obi-Wan, is basically what you know. Like, what we saw in the prequels was more like a war Jedi. It's not really the Jedi that we grew up with, right?
I'm with you.
So that being the case, Yoda's had all this time to ponder these ancient texts of the Jedi. What if his meaning of Jedi has changed since he's been in exile, and the teachings that he's provided Luke are the ones that you've always known and loved, but they are of the gray area in a way?
Yeah, that's fine.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, in reference to the line that Dave threw at us and other exiles, so I mean, this obviously starts in Revenge of the Sith when Yoda starts his exile, and Order 66 kind of destroys the Jedi Order and scatters a few survivors. It could leave the door open for Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka up to A New Hope, or maybe Empire or Jedi, because we know that Yoda did communicate with all three of those players at some point. So, by the strict definition, yeah, other exiles includes Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka. So the book is right, but I think what Dave is getting at, could there be more exiles beyond what we know in the original trilogy era? Which, again, Yoda tells Luke in Jedi, "The last of the Jedi will you be." So I think it's pretty clear that there's nobody left.
Well, I definitely think the first thing that pops out to my mind is who he's communing with. Is the first thing that popped out was Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon discovered Force ghosting, and Obi-Wan, like, as per this last episode of Rebels, I think, it's kind of clear that Obi-Wan is somewhat able to commune with Yoda.
Yeah, Obi-Wan and Yoda were definitely in touch.
I was like, I'll call you.
I'm leaving my phone off the hook, jerk. And then second part of Dave's question, unless you guys have more to say.
No.
Definitely. I think just the exile part of both Obi-Wan and Yoda have left them both pondering what it is to be a Jedi. And I think their definition of what it is to be a Jedi has changed since the Clone Wars. And they see some of their shortcomings now. So
A little too late, guys.
Yeah, again, but there's a new hope out there, and
No, not this again.
I think that maybe they changed their ways of teaching Luke in a way. Like Obi-Wan just seems so wise in this last episode. It was incredible.
Although there's plenty out there written about how Obi-Wan and Yoda mishandled Luke. But I'm not going to get into that now. Second part of the question. In the same book, it features a super detailed map of Maz's castle. In it, we learned that the castle was an ancient site of a Jedi-Sith battle and became a Jedi temple. And that there is a crypt in the basement with buried Jedi. That's friggin' cool, man. And it's right next door to the room where Rey finds the lightsaber. It does say Maz is a collector of things and a giver of things to people at the right time. Could it be that Luke has visited Maz's castle at some point, and he actually found the saber earlier but left it with Maz, knowing someone one day would come to find it? Could this explain how she came to have it, and then now Rey is the one meant to have it? Just some stuff to throw around. Excited to hear your thoughts. Dave, thank you for these super well thought out questions. We've already answered one, and I'm going to kick this one over to Corey. What do you think, Corey, about Luke and Maz and the saber and Rey? Where are your thoughts at?
This is amazing. Like, first of all, I want this book. And yeah, when I read this, I was like, man, this is heavy. Like, this is some heavy stuff. Like, Jedi buried. Like, I thought Jedi got cremated. So maybe she has remains of Jedi, which is kind of stuck out to me right away. But yeah, who the hell is Maz Kanata to have all this stuff? Like, why would you have the remains of Jedi at your place? Not only that, I've always said this since we saw this movie. I was like, her place really looks like a Jedi temple. Boom. Now we know it's a Jedi temple. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that's a bit of a jaw dropper to me. That Maz's watering hole is a Jedi temple, a former Jedi temple.
Who is she, man? Like, so at this point, yes, I think it's totally plausible to me in the sense that, once Luke, everything happens with Kylo, which again we don't know about, but the Jedi Order that he's established falls apart. She might be there to help him pick up the pieces. Like, does he instantly know what he has to do in finding Act 2? Like, what is it that Luke has to do? I think he needs someone's guidance again in a way, and I think Maz might have those answers for him in a sense. Like, she has so much knowledge, so many years of experience that maybe she helps point him in the right direction. Maybe she's a Bendu of her own in a way.
James, what do you think about that?
Well, when I read the question, I thought right away it seems plausible that when Luke went searching for whatever Jedi temples, that's one of the places he stopped to get information to whatever. So I don't think they have to go together. It doesn't mean he has to have left the lightsaber there on purpose for him to have been there before. So I think that's totally possible and cool, super cool. And it also brings into question, like they're obviously trying to keep Maz's real identity from us. And like, she was supposed to be a rumored Force user, but they didn't put that in the movie. Like, why is that?
She's Snoke.
I don't think she's Snoke, but
no.
I do think she's turning out to be, even maybe more important than we thought originally, which is super cool. And that her place was the Jedi Temple, super cool. Do I think Luke left the lightsaber there? I don't know. That sounds like a thinner limb to go out on, but I guess it's possible.
And it's such a shame that her place got trashed like that. All those treasures gone.
Now they're just buried again, that's all.
I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree that on the thin limb part about Maz having that saber the whole time and Luke just leaving it there. But I mean, the path of Luke's saber and where it went and how it got to where it is pretty wide open, I think. Again, like the Force Awakens was supposed to open with the saber kind of tumbling through space, and these villagers get their hands on it, and then there's a battle there, and on it goes. I love the idea. I love the idea of Maz and Luke knowing each other before the Force Awakens. I hope that at some point we see these two together, sharing information, or maybe very specifically Maz telling Luke where to go. If she's that old, and if her castle is a Jedi temple, a former Jedi temple, I assume she knows a lot of secrets about where other Jedi temples are hiding.
She's definitely an asset not only to the rebellion, but the balance of the Force.
Well, I always had the sense that she was a Jedi sympathizer, but this seems to pretty much outright confirm it. I mean, who takes up residence in a Jedi temple and keeps the artifacts there if you're not trying to either learn from it or preserve it or safeguard it for the next generation?
100%.
But this goes way back to even before The Force Awakens came out, or when it just came out. And we said, we need to learn more about Maz. Like, she is a treasure trove of information. Like, she's going to tell us so much stuff about galactic history and specifically the Jedi, going forward.
And the Grey.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, maybe the Grey. Maybe she'll teach us a little bit about the Grey. It seems like that's where she likes to hang out personally. But yeah, it certainly looks like she's got a much larger role to play, which I'm definitely in for. Anything else, boys?
Nope, Dave's awesome.
Dave is awesome. That is confirmed. But again, thanks for listening. Thank you, ads. Thank you, Dave Donovan. And don't forget to check out the Star Wars Commonwealth, Talk Star Wars, Generation X-Wing, the Rogue Squadron, the Skyhoppers, and the Nerd Room. Just killing it with content these days. And you can find us on social media. Corey, where can they find you on Twitter?
It's Chop Rules with a Z.
And so you can fire up that Twitter handle and yell at Corey for his absurd takes on so many things. And James, where can people find you? Are you still unfindable on Twitter?
Nobody found me last week, so challenge is still out there. Unfindable on Twitter. Good luck.
Find me at Tumbling Saber on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel that, rightfully so, nobody has subscribed to. We just. Oh, what do you want me to say? We have it. It's there. And I exaggerate when I say nobody. There's a few subscribers, and it's just a home for the podcast, another avenue for receiving this very show. If you got a few minutes, head over to iTunes, drop us a review. We'd love that. We'd love to get a little extra exposure for the show. And finally, stay tuned to the blog this week. We're going to have a new initiative dropping. It may actually already be out by the time you hear this. So head over to tumblingsaber.com and treat yourself to some talented Star Wars writers and some crazy takes on the unanswerable. And this is a Sith Disturbers week, so stay tuned for that later in the week. The three of us will be back spitting some more nonsense and hilarity at the same time. Funny, eh? Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you guys are having a good week, and we'll catch you later on. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
I can save you, just don't let me go, and I can see I'll be waiting, always waiting, just don't watching you walking away from me. Were you watching me? Was it just